Good afternoon, everybody. I'm having all sorts of technical difficulties today. Hope everyone's doing well. Hey, Joe, Lucky. No, actually, not technical issues. Um, Basically, my laptop did a software upgrade and signed me out of everything. So my software wouldn't view my camera. One web page wouldn't show the other one. It was just kind of a cluster. So I think I got it all sorted out. Um, but right now, I had multiple screens going before I had to battle this nonsense. One of which was Secretary of State Blinken, which Klingon Princess had just pointed out. So I'm going to jump to that because some of the things he's saying right now are kind of concerning. So the United Nations is also doing a live, but right now there's nobody there. So let's listen in on what these folks got going on. Hey, Joe, Loretta, hello, hello, and Prepper Cowboy. All right, let's see if we can get this puppy back online. Um, Bear with me just a minute. And I had all my screens laid out. I was so proud of myself today. And lo and behold, the gremlins came and screwed me up. So let me get sorted here for a second, and then we will go and look at what the Secretary of State has. Let's look. I believe it was ABC News had it, and here we go. After the commercial, of course. So right now, the United Nations is having an emergency hearing. Uh, to boot, I'm hearing now that the somebody said Israel went and smacked the hell out of a part of Damascus, which I have not yet confirmed. I don't know if people have collectively lost their mind. So let's see what I got here. Let's share the screen and see. I don't know who this peanut head is, but we'll put him on and let's see what Oaf has to say here. So
to make a long story short,
now, can you hear that guy? Just for my own education.
Abandoning our nuclear arsenal, that was a huge contribution.
Yeah, just to add to the fun, right? Because we didn't have enough chaos going on before.
An equally huge contribution.
Can you guys hear that?
Ensuring Ukraine's security.
Ben Hall, Fox News.
Thank you very much both for this today. Foreign Minister, there is a suggestion that what we've seen so far is a minor invasion, that there's more to come, and so it only warrants sort of lesser US sanctions. I wonder if that is your read as well. And also, you and President Zelensky called for tough sanctions to be placed on Russia before the invasion.
Thanks, Lucky.
You said this would happen. If not, it has happened. Are you happy with that in mind, with the way the US has handled this? What more would you like to see from the US and from the international community to try and deter more aggression? And Secretary Blinken, thank you. Given that Russia has invaded Ukraine, regardless of all the threats of harsh sanctions, the attempts at diplomacy, what makes you think that continuing down the same path is going to deter them any further? Do you think it's time to change tack? Do you think diplomacy has failed? And secondly, have you underestimated Putin?
First, there is no such thing as minor, middle, or major invasion. Invasion is an invasion. Second, as I said earlier, we do appreciate the sanctions which were announced today. They target Russia. They're very specific. They are painful. I can say frankly that yesterday, when we learned about the first executive order to impose sanctions on related to economic activities in the Donetsk, with Donetsk and Lugansk, we were puzzled because we saw how the side that thought recognition from Russia is being punished, but we didn't see how Russia, who granted its recognition, is punished. But we saw it today. And this strategy of imposing sanctions by waves, if I may put it this way, is something that can work if it continues in a sustainable way. President Putin should not have a single minute when
Let me know if you can still hear that, guys. All right. Yeah, I was trying to be fancy and that did not quite work as intended. Let me see if we can get that going again. I guess I can only share. I guess I can only share a tab at a time. I was trying to give you guys a live view of the
that
Kiev
every
right
next
now
decision
on another screen.
should be taken in a swift action.
Nice, 0
And
by
we saw
0.
2 executive orders issued by President Biden within less than 24 hours. This may be the dynamics that will have to be upheld if Russia continues to escalate. And it was encouraging to hear from Secretary a very simple sentence: if Russia escalates, the United States and partners will escalate sanctions. This is exactly the rule that has to be followed. And yes, we did believe that it would be helpful for some of sanctions, not all of sanctions, but some of sanctions to be imposed before the invasion begins as a preemptive measure for what Russia had done before. But this question becomes obsolete now. And we have to focus on a different strategy, the one that I just described.
Ben, it's hard for me to improve much on my friend Dimitro's answer. I'll just add a couple of things. First, all along we said that we were pursuing 2 tracks. A track of diplomacy and dialogue to try to persuade Russia not to engage in renewed aggression against Ukraine, and at the same time, a track where we were building up deterrence, building up defense, and building a response that would have massive consequences for Russia. Russia has clearly chosen to reject diplomacy and dialogue and instead to pursue aggression. As a consequence, we have started to pursue the severe consequences that we've made clear would follow from any renewed Russian aggression. Today, faced with the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, we started high and will stay high. The sanctions that we've already announced go well beyond what we did in 2014. Full blocking sanctions against 2 of Russia's largest financial institutions, VEB and the military bank. These institutions hold more than $80 billion in assets. They provide key services that are critical to financing the Kremlin and Russian military. We have comprehensive sanctions against Russian sovereign debt. What that means is that we're cutting off the Russian government from Western financing. Sanctions on elites and family members, and as promised, as we've said all along.
So what do you
Germany
think, guys?
taking action on Nord Stream 2. And to repeat what Dmytro just emphasized, we've also made clear, we're making clear today, that if Russia continues to escalate, so will we. And of course, it's not only the sanctions and other measures of that nature that are being taken. It is, as we've made clear, the reinforcement of NATO and its eastern flank, and continuing to provide and indeed increase the support that we're providing to Ukraine against every dimension: security, diplomatic, political, economic, humanitarian. All of that is in the mix. Ultimately, President Putin makes whatever decisions he makes. We can do everything in our power to try to shape those decisions. But as I've said all along, whatever his decisions, we're prepared either way, and we've demonstrated that again today in full coordination with allies and partners. Oh, I think to the contrary. We've not underestimated him. We've actually laid out for the world his entire playbook, the playbook that he is now following, and is making very clear that, for example, what the president's laid out, what I laid out at the United Nations a week ago, is exactly what's happening. So we've had a very clear-eyed view of President Putin all along.
We'll take a final question from Dmytro Anopchenko from InterTV.
Mr. Blinken, I'm interested in your opinion about Normandy format. After all what happened in Ukraine last night, may one tell that it will not work anymore and should be replaced like Ukraine proposed? And secondly, I got a question which may sound very naive, but it's a question of my audience in Ukraine, millions of people who are really scared. And if any one of them will be on my place, they will ask you, if Russian troops will move forward, or if they will start intense artillery fire hitting Ukrainian territory, on your understanding, what will happen next and what will America do?
Thank you. With regard to the Normandy format, I think the question is best directed at President Putin. As far as we can see by the actions that he's taken, he's rejected it, and he's torn up, in effect, the Minsk agreements, which the Normandy format was designed to advance. So if Russia is at all serious about resolving the conflict that it created in the Donbass, pursuant to the agreements it signed, the Minsk agreements, it's of course showing exactly the opposite. So the question is really to President Putin. We've supported the Normandy format all along with France, Germany, Ukraine, and Russia, working to implement the agreements. And throughout, Ukraine has worked very hard to make good on its commitments. Russia's done just the opposite. But what we've seen now in the last 24 hours would seem to be
Is the audio still good, guys?
repudiation of Minsk by Russia. But again, you would have to ask President Putin. With regard to what comes next, as I said a moment ago, and as we've said all along, if Russia pursues its aggression against Ukraine, it will face the massive consequences that not only the United States, but virtually all of our allies and partners have made clear would follow. You've heard this from the G7, the leading democratic economies in the world. You've heard it from the European Union. You've heard it from NATO. And that includes what
It's a
we
good idea,
started
maybe.
with today, and that is very severe economic and financial
Thanks, Lucky.
sanctions that will exact significant costs from Russia. It includes
Did
reinforcement of NATO and the defense of all allies in NATO, and it includes additional assistance to Ukraine in every area.
I think he just
Security,
talks low because
diplomatic,
I had to
political,
turn it all the way up for
economic,
me to hear the
military.
guy.
All of that will follow. And again, I repeat what I've said before. If and as Russia escalates, so will we.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Well, I wanted to start with that because I thought it would be cool to watch this in real time as they did their speech. It's kind of a mess right now. So what Putin did, and for those of you who didn't realize this, Putin's actually an attorney. He's a lawyer on top of being like a KGB, whatever he is. So what he's essentially done is invaded, not invaded, right? Because back in like 2014, the UN recognized this area as troubled or whatever category, but they all acknowledged it is part of Ukraine. It's just contentious. So what Putin did was evacuate the citizens to Russia, right? Telling them that Ukraine was going to attack them, and then basically said, oh, we will now send peacekeepers into this questionable area, which is probably the same peacekeepers they sent to Crimea and they sent to Kazakhstan to kill the civilians in the street. Now, you can argue Russia didn't start it because we kept pushing NATO closer to him, but Zanava, you run a Murphy's? Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, peacekeepers. Quotes required for that word with these guys. The little green men with no patches. I wonder where they came from. right now, essentially, what you've witnessed was an unchallenged invasion of part of the Ukraine, which what a lot of people don't realize, they did this in Crimea, and the Ukrainian Defense Force actually went back in to extract people, and they slapped the hell out of a couple of Russian units when they did it, which kind of spooked Russia. They didn't realize, we've been picking on the Ukrainians for 8 years. They're getting good at fighting with us. It's it's bad. And speaking, and Navi, since you brought up, and thanks for joining me, by the way, since you brought up gas prices, I'm an energy guy myself. I saw this article earlier, and I really think for those of us here in the United States and Canada, um, this is what's going to hurt us the most. It's going to be the hydrocarbons, the oil, the gas, petroleum products are going to really cause us an issue. And I will, I'm going to share this article, and hopefully I don't blow my eardrums off here with this one. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to try and not make myself deaf. Let's see if this goes. Let me know if you can hear this.
If you pump gas or pay a heating
God,
bill,
that's
you're
not.
already on the economic front lines of the showdown
can
in
hear it.
Ukraine. Home heating oil up 56% in a year. Gasoline now averaging $3.51 nationally, up from $2.63 a year ago.
It's already expensive, and now it's just like outrageous.
I would spend maybe about $100 or so per week, but now I'm going up to about $200 per week.
While the strong
God.
economy and inflation sent prices soaring last year, it's the showdown in Ukraine that's helping to drive prices higher now. Russia is a member of OPEC and the world's third largest exporter of oil and gas. And in the oil markets, prices are set globally, not locally. The potential that war, international sanctions, and counter-sanctions could reduce global supply is a big reason why Americans are paying even more on Main Street. With 50 pizza stores and more than 1,000 employees in New England, Sal Lupoli says skyrocketing food costs and now fuel prices are taking a very big bite out of his margins.
Every product that we use has gone up substantially. Not only is it the cost of food, Tom, and the cost of delivery of that food, but it's also the increase in expense of us running our own vehicles.
Those rising food and fuel prices have already forced him to raise prices an unprecedented 4 times over the past year. Now, oil and gas analysts say the Ukraine showdown could soon push those fuel prices to record-breaking levels.
We're talking about $4 a gallon nationally. California could hit $5, probably even beyond that. California could reach $5.50 and even could near that $6 a gallon mark.
Yeah, on Capitol Hill, by the way, a group of Democratic lawmakers wants to suspend the gas tax, the federal gas tax, through this year. That would save Americans 18 cents a gallon, and those lawmakers also want protections to ensure that the Americans, the drivers, get that tax break, that it doesn't stick with corporate America, with oil companies. Savannah?
All right, we'll keep our eye on this one, Tom. Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
So, you guys heard that. Now, I want to go back to something Navi said, because I've actually been involved in. I was, and Sassy was, in the fuel logistics, right? Typically, you ever notice like your gas, and Navi can comment. Hey, Jeep, how are you? And yeah, the sanctions. Yeah, I don't know how effective the sanctions will be. We'll see, I guess. In the morning, like for instance, at 6 p.m., depending on the company, typically the new market price for gasoline comes out at like 6 or 7 at night. Or 6 in the morning. I don't remember. So basically, 6 p.m., it's the next 24-hour gas price, right? And normally it'll go up a nickel, come down, come up 10 cents, 5 cents. It rarely goes into the double digits in a normal market. The fact that, and Navi put it up here, was it 30 cents today? That's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a bit abnormal for gas to jump like that. But so, yeah, it's gonna cause issues. So that's where it's going to hurt us as people who are trying to be prepared for emergencies is to, okay, you're at a 1 p.m. change. There's a few stations out here at 6 p.m. But again, it's a 24 hour. So at 1 p.m. today, Navi's new pricing for the next 24 hours comes out. But it normally doesn't jump 30 cents, right? That's kind of abrupt. But part of it is this. It's partly market with the reduced drilling in the U.S., even though they've added solar and wind to Texas, Cali, a lot of places are doing it. You're still going to see that. Remember, a farm tractor still runs on diesel, right? And remember also that even though we pipeline the fuel to the refineries, wherever they may be, the trucks have to bring them back to the gas station so the rest of us can get it. And you can see there, if the diesel and gas goes up, that cost of logistics will get passed down to us. It'll get passed to our farmers. It'll get passed, etc. Like the pizza place guy was saying, he's going, those costs are going to go up. And, the $125 pizza. Yeah, basically. See, a militant, the scary thing is, if they sanction them to where there becomes some kind of major panic or even a recession in Russia, will Putin, who I would think is a rather intelligent guy, do something bad or stupid as a result of trying to keep his domestic audience happy? Right? And that would be ugly, without a doubt. So yeah, I don't see a red dawn, honestly, Joe. The only country that could field enough soldiers, physical soldiers like people, to actually invade us would be China, the People's Republic. They could probably very quickly train, 2 million conscripts and dump them on another country. But I don't, I agree with you. I don't see a red dawn going on. What I do see is hit and run kind of attacks. So, for instance, if it were to get to where NATO and Russia got into it, that would basically make all our shipping lanes fair game, right? So you want to screw up the US, you think the port of Los Angeles is bad now, sink a couple of freighters at the mouth of the port and then see what happens. You kind of see what I'm saying, which is actually an ancient technique. The Greeks used to do this. They'd send a fire ship to the other fleet and then sink stuff at the mouth of the bays so the enemy fleet couldn't get out to challenge them. Or maybe it was the Persians who did that. But anyway, you guys get the picture. They don't have to have the firepower. They just have to make a mess. But yeah, to your point, yeah. Cost me $78. Oh. Well, I was 70, so yeah, I guess I. Hey, Milkmaid, how are you? Oh, what's the recipe today? I'm not doing a kitchen live, so I guess you're doing the kitchen today. Yeah, that somebody's gonna make money somewhere. I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because you're trying to make a living, but you rely on those, whoever it is, EPT, UPT. I'm familiar with some of the transport companies. They'll come out there and hopefully nobody cross drops anywhere because that'll really screw up a gas station. But yeah, it's a tough audience to deal with because drivers show up and there's no gas and they freak. So wait, yum! Look at that cube steak with mushroom cream sauce. Okay, see, we need to do a kitchen live, like a group of us, kind of like canning, but instead of preserving it, we're eating it. That would be fun. No, he's not. More like Dawn of the Dead. That might happen everywhere, man. But yeah, and Joe's working on various projects, so come to my house and cook. Oh, Okay, now for those of you wondering what Navi and I are talking about, a cross drop is when the guy in the delivery truck screws up and they put something like E85 in the diesel tank, or they put diesel in the 93 octane. And then someone not knowing any better rolls their Mercedes up and fills their tank full of E85 when it is clearly a gasoline car, and an hour later the engine's destroyed. So hey, ghetto, what's going on? So yeah, honestly, the biggest pain point we're going to see up front would be the energy price. That's going to hit us here at home immediately. So actually, China withheld support for Russia in the UN Security Council hearing because Russia reached out to countries saying we would endorse support because we feel we are in the moral right. China refused, saying that there's got to be a better way to do this. I mean, I guess maybe China thinks, talking a bunch of smack is one thing, but you just roll troops into someone else's country. And keep in mind, China has a massive border with Russia. China's like, well, I don't want to encourage you to do that shit. Who's to say you won't take your tanks and go roll into my country, and go take Mongolia and decide that's part of Russia. So, yeah. Okay, hey, random, what's going on? Yeah, I was happily surprised, Lucky, much like yourself, that they did that. So, for those of you who were curious, I was kind of meandering about the interwebs, and I found this, and I just thought I'd share it. It's not very exciting, and apparently Joe had things to say to a stupid person. Joe seems to poor guy. Joe, you sometimes they just pop out of the woodwork on you. I feel like that. Like there's some weeks I can't go to the store and not see 5 really bizarre human beings doing shit they shouldn't. And it's just like I could have gone through the rest of the week without seeing what I just saw. Like there was no need for me to share that, but thank you, universe, for partaking the weirdness. There's no audio here, guys, so this is just really FYI. So that is live view of Maidan Square in Kiev, Russia. Kiev, Russia. Kiev, Ukraine. I'm looking at 3 different things at once. In Kiev, so that's actually a really pretty city. But you look, I mean, people aren't freaking out. There's no air raid sirens. They're just kind of going about. Let's see. Oh no, Tim, I wouldn't have taken it like that. And actually, I may be due in Bakersfield, which is technically not northern, but it's not LA. It's away. Bakersfield kind of looks like the flat part of Texas, from what I've seen. But yeah, I might have to go to the northern half of Cali at some point. And I hear it's really pretty up there, so I'm looking forward to that. If the bosses bless it, which is now. I like that. I'm used to seeing odd shit every day. Yeah, this is true. Murphy's gas station. Okay, so for those of you unfamiliar with the Murphys, if you haven't seen them, they're usually attached to a Walmart, so or they're right off a main drag, like a main highway. So it's yeah, I can only imagine what a gas station sees. Good lord. So yeah, but you look at this picture of the Ukraine. There were some police cars zooming around, but that's not abnormal. Yeah, people coming out of the stores. There's just chilling. Nobody's really freaking out. Hey, Kat. So I'm glad you made it. Yeah, we're going after. We're making fun of our leaders again, trying to figure out why they're breaking the economy, but apparently they think they're smart. Actually, speaking of leaders, I heard, and this is rumor, so I'm going to let you guys decide. Oh, you have the big store. Okay, not the Cracker Jack box. Yeah. Yeah, those are pretty awful, actually. So the president made a statement. This is about a 10-minute video, so we can kind of chat on it. Apparently, it was a pretty decent speech today. So I'm gonna let you guys decide if it was a decent speech or not. Let me bring that up here, and let me see if I could do. Hold on. Let me know if you can hear that. Holy shit, that's loud.
From the beginning of this crisis, I
That's
have been
twice I've done
absolutely
that.
clear and consistent. The United States is prepared no matter what happens. We are ready with diplomacy to be engaged in diplomacy with Russia and our allies and partners to improve stability and security in Europe as a whole. And we are ready to respond decisively to Russian attack on Ukraine. It's still very much a possibility. For all the events of the last few weeks and months, this has been our approach, and it remains our approach now. So today I want to speak to the American people about the situation on the ground, the steps we've taken, the actions we're prepared to take, and what's at stake for us and the world, and how this may impact on us here at home.
Pilgrim.
For weeks now, together with our allies and partners, my administration has engaged in non-stop diplomacy. This weekend, I spoke again with President Putin to make clear that we are ready to keep pursuing high-level diplomacy, to reach written understandings among Russia, the United States, and the nations of Europe to address legitimate security concerns, if that's his wish.
Hi, I'm
Whoa,
My
who's this
Patriot
cat?
Supply. I provide gear and supplies for
We're not
emergency
gonna show
situations.
this knucklehead here.
I am also a
Yeah, we don't need to show the stupid commercial. So, okay, here he goes. Let's bring potatoes back again.
European allies and partners. Yesterday, the Russian government publicly proposed to continue the diplomacy. I agree. We should give the
Me too.
diplomacy every chance to succeed. And I believe there are real
Hey,
ways
Tennessee.
to address our respective security concerns. The United States has put on the table concrete ideas to establish a security environment in Europe. We're proposing new arms control measures, new transparency measures, new strategic stability measures. These measures would apply to all parties, NATO and Russia alike. We're
Probably.
willing to make practical, result-oriented steps that can advance our common security. We will not sacrifice basic principles, though. Nations have a right to sovereignty and territorial integrity. They have the freedom to set their own course and choose with whom they will associate. But that still leaves plenty of room for diplomacy and for de-escalation.
Yeah.
That's the best way forward for all parties, in our view. We'll continue our diplomatic efforts in close consultation with our allies and our partners. As long as there is hope of diplomatic resolution that prevents the use of force and avoids incredible human suffering that would follow, we will pursue it. The Russian defense minister reported today that some military units are leaving their positions near Ukraine. That would be good, but we have not yet verified that. We have not yet verified the Russian military units are returning to their home bases. Indeed, our analysts indicate that they remain very much in a threatening position. And the fact remains, right now, Russia has more than 150,000 troops encircling Ukraine and Belarus and along Ukraine's border. An invasion remains distinctly possible.
Is it
That's
me or
why
is
I've
he
asked
slurring?
several times that all Americans in Ukraine leave now before it's too late to leave safely. It is why we have temporarily relocated our embassy from Kyiv to Lviv in Western Ukraine, approaching the Polish border.
All right, so that was kind of his can, and it goes on from here. It's kind of his canned response. He said the things he needed to say. I swear he was slurring a little bit, which is kind of bizarre for me to listen to. To be fair, our last two presidents, whether you like them or not, they enunciated well, both of them. They could speak. I give them both credit for that. He seems like he's kind of struggling. He probably had the teleprompter going. Yeah, that militant that wouldn't. Yeah, he is. He's. Yeah, I honestly, I'm wondering if this poor guy, if this isn't like if we had something a little better, that would be awesome, I guess. So this, like I said, I think that the biggest thing. You watched this earlier. You can tell he has a hard time reading them. Yeah, yeah, I do. I mean, I don't wish him ill. I want someone more competent as our leader. But that's guess this is what we need. This is what we're stuck with now. Well, bottom line is, I mean, you look at it. This is what it's going to hurt is going to be the economy up front, right? It's going to hurt the gas prices, and we've seen it. I mean, we have Navi who's got a gas station. He just attested to it. I'm dealing, on the upstream side, we're seeing the same thing. So again, it's going to be more what we've talked about, right? You want to hedge that stuff and look for sales, right? Because every now and then, remember, stores have to move product, right? So even if they got the beef and they paid $4 a pound, I'm just throwing that out there, or $4 a pound for ground beef, at some point they got to move it. Now, if they're not moving it for whatever reason, yeah, it is. And I could see where the fuel prices will immediately get hurt because, if, for instance, if Russia, let's say Russia goes and they shut off to the Ukraine and Europe, right? Well, that's fair enough. The U.S. and Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, we can start producing up and ship to them. But now that's less in the market, right? And then there goes the supply and demand curve. But if Putin does that, that's one of his biggest revenue sources. So they're going to suffer in Russia. Okay. And if you read the Russian history, the quickest way to get overthrown is to, starve the people long enough, and it pisses them off. So, wow, that's an image I didn't need, Joe. That's funny and awful at the same time. It's going to keep getting real. It's going to keep becoming expensive. So, for instance, I've been looking at the ground beef. That's one of those staple products, right? Ground beef, stupid things, ground beef, corn, a bottle of bleach. These are things that for the most part, they really don't move a lot. And like you had seen, the $2 bottle of bleach or $1.50 is now $6. I mean, what the hell? Beef, for instance, the 1 pound of ground beef, those tube things they call a chub. Whoever come up with that name's a clown. But the 1 pound of beef at HEB was almost $3.50, $4. But then you go around and they had manager special. They had some meats that needed to get out the door. So they had these big, 4 pound of ground beef, and it was $1.99 a pound, right? So you get that bulk amount, you split it up, you save some if you can. I know, like Milkmaid, a lot of other folks can. I know Chubb. I can't even say the word without laughing. But if you can food, or if you can freeze dry it, or if you just vacuum seal it and stick it in your freezer, you just saved yourself money. So you can eat the next few weeks, the next month, with today's prices before that inflationary effect hits. And I point this out, and you guys notice I keep going back to the economics and the inflationary effect, because that's what hurts us as individuals, right? Unless there's a politician or some, like big wheels snuck into the chat, most of us work for a living. We have to answer to a job, and we have finite money with which to buy stuff. And so that's what will probably hurt us the most. Yeah, well, Tennessee, always save the receipt just in case you open it and it's a fail. It goes right back. Um, yeah, it's they literally call it a chub. Um, I used to call it the little tube thing, the meat tube, which sounds just as bad. And I was looking for the turkey one because they didn't have normal turkey packs. And I was like, where's the little meat pouch thing, the little meat thing? And the girl goes, the chub, and she cracks up, and then I start cracking up. And then, so obviously the stalkers at the store think it's hysterical too. Um, but yeah, that's so bad, Joe. Uh, Also, yes, that's another good place. So stores that butcher their own meat, the HEBs, or even local butcher shops, especially in Texas. Those of you in Texas, or even outside of New York City, upstate New York, Ohio, Idaho, where you're a little further out from the main cities, a lot of the local butcher shops will buy animals direct from farm or ranch. So you guys you guys can save some money, and certainly even if you pay a little more, you can at least ensure availability. um, Joe's got a good point. If you can resort to the canned meats, that's fine. If you can get meats and can your own, um, and I think those are the kind of products, the dairy, the meat, all the cattle based products and the livestock based products is the ones that are going to get hurt the most. But I bet the plants, the crops are going to get hurt too. I mean, tractors are not solar. There's not a Tesla tractor that I'm aware of. So diesel prices going up, it is going to go, and it's gonna come falling down. Yeah, no, we do harbor inner 12-year-olds. Absolutely. It's a baton of burger. I don't, I, That's actually not a bad name. Although I guess if you froze it, it could be like a bludgeon of meat. I don't know. This is just bad. Anyway, you notice that whole conversation is just going downhill, and it's kind of funny. Um, do I expect now? Putin has addressed that he'd be willing to use nukes. That shouldn't be a surprise. Yeah, tractors, at least to my knowledge, are mostly diesel. So, but keep in mind, because a lot of people tend to confuse like oil and natural gas. Natural gas is actually methane. So you can drill a well and get separate zones within the earth that produce oil and produce methane or natural gas. The natural gas will get sorted one way and the oil goes the other. Oil will provide you things like gasoline, diesel, butane, propane, all the liquid type uh, type fuels, and it also provides additives for plastic and for aluminum foil. So you can't make aluminum, and it also gives carbon monoxide or dioxide, which is used in other chemicals. So that's true. A beef bludgeon. No, not particularly. We're just gonna live more expensive, is what it is. So uh, yeah, and that's basically methane comes from organic decay. In the oil and gas industry, it would be downhole organic layers, and on the surface, it would be poop and garbage. So, but it does light. Um, but yeah, you're going to see those inflationary effects. Okay, so that's what we as individuals are going to have to battle, right? So again, use that collaboration. If you can buy, like Joe's going to the potted canned stuff, it's readily available. The price point's right. They store for a while. Definitely an option. If you buy fresh meats and you can them yourselves or freeze dry, if you can afford that kind of contraption, always an option. Um, for instance, for vegetables, you buy those $1. The ones you basically, it's frozen veggies. Um, in order to go through the freezing process, they have to blanch them and cut them the correct size in advance. So you don't have to do that. You can literally throw it on your dehydrator racks and set it for an overnight at about, I think it's 130 degrees. And you get dehydrated veggies. You put them in some kind of sealed container, and preferably pull a suction on it or put an O2 absorber in there. And, you know, you've got dried veggies that will last you an extended period of time. And then you can put them into soup or into other dishes to reconstitute them. So that kind of stuff. And we've got some canners in the chat. I think Catskill, I think you do. I know the Milkmaid does. There are quite a few of you who may out there. So check out some of these other channels and see if you can find any tips if you decide to go that route. White House is producing methane. Yeah, and right, you can dehydrate meat. Actually, I'm going to have to email you about that because I read 2 articles that told me opposite things to do. But yeah, you can use a dehydrator to make jerky. You can also use your oven. You just have to soak it correctly. So yeah, there's a lot of options you have to try and blunt the hit we're probably all going to take with the fuel costs. Now the stock market was looking kind of hinky, but it didn't really destroy everything. You know, a lot of people were freaking out that, you know, the market was going to collapse, and it didn't collapse. It was really a knucklehead who panicked on the web. So I'll play this quick video for you just so you guys can see it. If I can get rid of Limu over here. So Klingon, it has to be cooked meat though, correct? Smoked meat to make jerky. Okay. I didn't know you can dehydrate meat. I'm going to have to look into that more. Let's see. This is the market report, and it didn't look like it was the end of the world at all, but things are going to get expensive. So let me know if you can hear that. I like that. They say energy is up. All of them are negative. I'm like, you can't hear it? Doggone it. Okay. Let's try that again. All right, let's try that one more time, guys. Every now and then. Okay, let's try that. Let me know if you can hear that.
Yes, let's go straight to the Wi-Fi Interactive, where notably everything in the U.S. is underwater right now. But I want to take a step back,
Can you hear it now?
a longer-term picture, a 2-month look at the S&P 500. As feared, as I was pointing out with the possibility last week that we are going down and testing now these lows. The question is, how low do we go? Do we exceed them? What you want to see is a strong reaction to the upside, and that would create a candle with a long tail or wick like we're seeing over there. So we could easily hit 4,200. We could easily hit 41 or 4,000 even. Have to see where we end up. Probably have that momentum low already in, but then now we're looking for that price low. So here's the sector action for today. Energy. I'll give you 99 reasons why energy is up today. That would be Brent hitting almost $100
This is what I was
per
making
barrel.
fun
But
of. They're
to the
saying it's
downside, we're
going up,
seeing
but
some
look at them.
weakness in those consumer discretionary retail stocks that we've been talking about, like Home Depot. That sector is off 1.5% to the downside. And just want to check out some of the action here. Here's Brent hitting $99 and change, and 97.91 right now. It's up 4.5% on the Russian headers. We got RBOB gasoline at the highest prices, I think, in at least 52 weeks. That's up 3%. Also checking out gold as well. We're seeing that catch a bid, and we've seen it break to the upside very recently. As I've said, I think we have momentum to go quite a bit higher here in gold, though we may take a pause around $1,900, $2,000 per ounce.
Hey, big
and
chap.
also natural gas. We've been talking about the situation with the Ukraine and also how Russia really has a stranglehold on Russia. So all in all, really seeing the futures light up here, just not really seeing it in the stocks, guys.
Yeah, we are not. But another place where we've been watching for reaction to all of this is actual gold and digital gold. And one of them has been benefiting more than the other, which has been
That's
interesting.
for the European
Yeah, and
oil.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking at a Bitcoin chart right now. We've seen Bitcoin and equities move together only on the big move. So if we have a big downdraft based on Ukraine headers or inflation headers in the stock market, in general, we're seeing crypto follow, and not the best overnight or over the weekend price action. Given that extended stay that we had from the markets, we're seeing the lowest levels in several weeks here. And you take a look at a 2-month chart, really just testing these lows. So we had the beginning of a short-term
Caribbean House.
uptrend. Looks like that's probably negated, not out the window just yet, but not the best technical information or technical presentation setup that we're seeing in Bitcoin right now. Also want to check out some of the other tokens. Ethereum down 3.5%. We can see their chart, the Ethereum chart, pretty close
The only
to
thing
Bitcoin.
that scares
Haven't really
me about
tested these
cryptos
lows just
is
yet, but
if
trying to head
they
down
hack
there.
the
And then
banks, then
Ripple,
how are you going to get your
XRP,
crypto?
we see that approaching
really
the
quick
lows
to
from last
turn
week
that
and last
off.
month as well. So interesting to see how some of this
I don't.
equities volatility to the downside has also spilled into crypto.
Indeed it
Kentucky
is.
Cigar,
Garrett Blicker,
absolutely.
thanks so much.
Will you?
So, yeah, that's and that's where we're going to get hit up front. Yeah, this was interesting. Like I said earlier, the Russians basically not invaded. And so now it kind of leaves the ball in Ukraine and NATO's court. Does Ukraine simply say, oh, well, they took 2 more provinces, sucks to suck, or are they going to do something about it? I don't think Ukraine has the manpower to kick Russia out. Yeah. And, oh, yeah, and so happy about that. Oh, and told those 10,000 folks that already had signed contracts, go find another job in the green economy. And then there were no more jobs. Yeah, I know people personally got screwed on that one. I'm just, yeah, it's going to, yeah, it's just going to be, we're just going to battle this stupidity. Now, if it does, like I said, if something does happen, I don't know if Russia has the footprint to go and hit people everywhere, but they can make things super disruptive, intercepting freighters, sinking freighters. But that would also get international condemnation, right? Because then that's going to screw China over. China's not going to like that. If they remember, the fuel price Russia's playing with is going to hurt Chinese as well. So he's got to kind of balance both sides against the middle. Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, Joe, if people just be aware of how these things can affect you personally. So if there is a supply chain disruption, which we've seen several, you can then be able to, feed you and your family, then you should be fine. I'm not expecting this to become Red Dawn, as you pointed out earlier. I think it's so. And again, my understanding was we had National Guard from California, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Ohio. We're in the Western Ukraine, teaching them how to use anti-tank rockets. If the Russians decide they want to jump into a larger scale conflict, what I think they're going to create is a massive insurgency on themselves. And the Ukrainians will put up a defense openly, but they're not going to be able to go head to head in an open battlefield. So what they're going to do, they're going to do a very slow, painful retreat, and then they're just going to go, and they're going to go hide. And, then Russian convoys will be going back and forth, and trucks will start blowing up, and, Ukrainians will they'll run away. They'll basically replicate what the French resistance did to the Nazis during World War II. They just start hitting them, hit and run all over the place. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because like some of the people I see nowadays on the Western Hemisphere, I don't think they would survive very well. After day one, he canned ours. So militant, that would not surprise me. There was a TikToker I follow. She was showing videos of the C-17s doing touch and goes out near where that person lives. And the Air National Guard's been super busy in my neck of the woods. We've got, within a few hours, Dyes, Goodfellow, the El Paso Army bases. I've seen Apaches. It's been a little more active, but it was a lot of transports. You always see like the F-15s do touch and goes, and the Blackhawks, because they get their training time in like that in the civilian airports. But there's been a lot of transport lately, which really pisses off dogs. The whole neighborhood is barking because the damn C-130 came really low over the subdivision. So yeah. And the supply chain is probably where we're going to feel the most pain individually here in the Western Hemisphere. Is the cost of goods is gonna go up, and like Kentucky pointed out earlier, if gas goes to $6-7 a gallon, diesel's probably going to be a little bit higher. You know what that's going to do to the cost of everything else. So yeah, and that, honestly, Joe, that's my big fear, is the supply chain. It's already screwed up, and something like this may make it to where staple goods become unsustainable for folks, and then you're going to have a whole nother problem. Right now, folks, all I can do to tell you, and you've got a lot of content creators in the chat right now. If you know how to can, or you're willing to learn, go to the videos, try to learn how to can. If you're starting, they always say, use basic recipes that are approved, and then as you get better, you can kind of do your own thing. Dehydrate is a dehydrator. You can get a simple one for as cheap as $50. And the better ones, they can go up in price. Try to maximize your dollars, right? None of us, unless someone has $1 billion in their pocket, most of us have a budget. So work within your budget, and more importantly, try to explain. And again, I'm hearing this a lot now, that people are saying, oh, well, the people who were calling me for toilet paper during the Rona are now asking me why I'm dehydrating vegetables. Like, well, the Rona's passed and they're not paying attention to this. It's like they become stupid again after the danger passes. Hey, farmer's son. Yeah, well, he didn't specify 8/23 on what date, though. So, yeah, I did see that. That was kind of fun. But yeah, instead, what's going to happen on the ground is going to happen somewhere else. What we need to be aware of is how it's going to affect your availability of goods, your meds, and the cost of both what you buy and where what your business day to day is going to be affected by. So if you drive a lot, you got to drop kids off, you got to buy lunches, start taking those steps to preserve some food, because you will continue to see those shortages, and there's no reason to have a heart attack over it. But in any case, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I just wanted to kind of throw those speeches out there. again, right now, a lot of political puffery, but I don't know if anyone's going to do anything. What is NATO going to do? Technically, it's not their business. And Ukraine's really not in a position to push back on Russia. They're in a defensive pattern right now. So thank you, Milkmaid. So yeah, and check out some of these videos. It never hurts to learn how to do anything to save yourself some money and time. Guys, I will reach out to everyone hopefully on Saturday, depending on how the schedule is. I'm hoping to have Six Shooter join me next Tuesday to talk about homesteading, his animals, his farm. He just expanded his property. 2 weeks ago, I had a conflict. This week, he had a conflict. So we're going to kind of, hopefully we'll all be on the same schedule for next week. And, he's going to come share some stuff with us on his farming and homestead stuff. And I thought that might be interesting for a lot of you guys and girls who are kind of getting into growing your own right now. So, folks, until next time, Godspeed if you're on the road. Be safe, help each other out, and y'all keep an eye on each other and watch the market. What's going to hurt us here is going to be the pricing index. That's going to spike. So don't freak out. You know it's coming. And if it doesn't, and you bought something for cheap, hey, now you got stuff to make dinner with. So be good. Be safe. We'll see you later.